Right, so welcome to this ILS video. This is basically a really simple tutorial on how to do ILS as quick as possible. So first things first, what do you need to fly an ILS? You need a frequency and you need an inbound course. That is it. You find a frequency in Flight Sim. Well, one thing you can do is you can go and find the real world frequencies by typing in the airport names, for example, EGKK, approach church, something like that, and almost certainly for most airports, if not all of them, you can find the actual real world frequencies. If you just want to find it quickly and easily in Flight Sim, before you do a flight, you can go to your world map. You can make sure your filters are on nav aids. I also like to have airspaces on, and then you can zoom in to your airport and you can find the ILS frequency. What are you looking for? Well, you're looking for the opposite end of the runway that you're landed on. So this is runway 26 left, so we're looking to click on here. If we were landed on 08 right, we would click here. So we're landing this direction, we need this frequency. We're going to write down 110.9, we'll need that for later. And how do we know what the inbound course is? Well, Flight Simulator, most of the aircraft actually puts it in automatically for you, so you don't really need to worry about it. But if we're landed on runway 26, we know that the runway heading is 260. If we were landed on runway 08, it would be the heading inbound course would be 080. And likewise, if you're landing on runway 20, it would be 200. So basically add a 0 onto the runway numbers and you've got your inbound course. So that is what we're going to do. Let's go to Gatwick really quickly and let's do it. So we're going towards Gatwick. We're at 3,000 feet. This is where we are, just down to the southeast. We're going to capture the ILS, we're going to fly in here, right? So how do we do that? Well, first thing we need to do is put in our frequency for our ILS. So let's go to our nav comms, and so you want to put this frequency into your nav comms, not your actual comm radios, which are for talking to air traffic control and other planes. So how do we do that? Well, we go to nav, so nav 1 and nav 2 is where it wants to go. 110.9, it's already in. Transfer has to be transferred into the active instead of the standby, so if it's in the active, the aircraft will be listening on that frequency. We need to put our active course on. How do we do that? Well, normally in most aircraft there's a selection for it. On this fancy system it does it automatically for you. So how do we see if it's done that? We change our active nav to nav 1 and it's already come up localizer 1. You can see whenever I did that as well, it was on, so let's say we go to nav 2, there's nothing here, nothing on the middle, and you can see whenever I go to nav 1 that the localizer comes up. It knows it's getting localizer frequency and it knows it's got a glide slope frequency, so both of those we know, and it's also set the inbound course. So now we're ready to fly our ILS. How do we do that? Well, we just follow what the indications are telling us. So at the minute we're at 3,000 feet. It's telling us the glide slope is above us. The glide slope is represented by this little diamond, so it's above us. The localizer is represented by this bar, so we know we need to fly this way to capture the localizer, and we would need to stay at 3,000 feet, and eventually the glide slope will come down and we can intercept it. What's also useful is to put up your DME distance so you can see how far you are from the runway. So right now we're 13.1 miles from the runway threshold, and so that's quite useful for your descent planning. Why? Because on a normal ILS it's a 3-degree glide slope to the runway. What does that mean? Well, that means for every nautical mile we know we're going to lose 300 feet. So at 10 nautical miles we know that the glide slope beam will be at 3,000 feet. So 3,000 feet, 10 miles, always an easy place to intercept an ILS from. What's happening now? The localizer bar is moving in, so we need to capture that. So let's turn the aircraft to capture that. We're probably going to overshoot it, and we're at 12 miles, so we're not going to get the glide slope coming down yet. So we're 11 miles from the runway. This distance out, the localizer isn't that sensitive. The closer we get to the runway, the localizer and glide slope become more sensitive, and to recapture these deviations, it will be a smaller amount that you need to put in. So now this bar is coming back again, so we're going to slowly start steering onto the runway course to hold that, and you'll also see that the glide slope indication is now getting closer to our position. So it's at 1.5 dots deviation now, so we're going to get ready to fly down that. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to be lazy and we're just going to click the approach button. What does this do? Well, it'll capture the localizer first off. It'll capture localizer here, and it's also armed the glide slope to capture. So it's gonna, whenever this beam comes down in the middle, which means that it's at our altitude, the computer's gonna lock onto it and it's gonna fly down the glide slope. You can see what the aircraft's doing. It's just following this diamond down, just following this line. But it's a little bit low on the glide slope now. It's maybe starting to lose it because it's not designed to fly this low. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna disconnect it. So let's disconnect, let's pitch up slightly, recapture the glide slope, and then let's follow that glide slope down again. And you can see how sensitive it is. It's very bumpy for some reason with the weather, but you can see how sensitive that glide slope is. It takes very, very small corrections whenever you're close to the runway. Should probably have my feet on the rudder pedals, but we're kind of wallowing around in the wind. And now we're just gonna close the throttles and try to land. There we go. Right. So that's ILS approaches and landings. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, piece of piss. Done.